Hello, GM. Thank you for coming up, Vet, and being co-host, man. And I hope everyone who comes to the space, finds this information and enjoys the conversation as much as I know I'm going to today, and I always do in the space. And I'll send some invites out. Welcome everyone who joined so quickly. Gonna keep this really more XRP ledger and distributed ledger technology focused today in the conversation, and of course, in the title, happy birthday to the XRP ledger. 12 years yesterday. Of course, we're a day late, but today is Monday, so day of the space. And so everyone, welcome to the space. Welcome up, Vet.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me as a co-host for this very, very much significant event, birthday.
12 years, significant milestone when we look at the distributed ledger space and how much of a wave it has been, and for our network to not only still be in the market cap of the top 10, but to be in a trajectory of new innovations and things that are coming about on the network that we've never seen. It's amazing. 12 years. Welcome up, Ledger.
Hey, Death Ranger. Good evening, 10 p.m. over here in Paris, France, but good morning to everybody else.
Yeah, afternoon for me, but I
Hey,
do know, yes, it is already evening for you. How are the meals going today?
Oh, let's see, what did I? Oh, there's a little noodle shop around the corner from the Commons called Shea Hockey, and it's literally footsteps away, and we had that for lunch. And they actually, you can walk up to the window and watch them hand make the noodles and the dumplings. So anybody now or in the future who comes to visit the Commons, definitely drop by Shea Hockey. And yeah, we're having community night on Wednesday this week, so I think we get fed at the Commons.
That is awesome. I love homemade pastas and dumplings. I'm making actually potato ganache tonight for dinner, so it's perfectly aligned there.
homemade pasta. Damn.
Oh, this is Asian pasta, like noodles, like boiled or fried noodles, like oh man, it's so good. And the dumplings are like dim sum and pot stickers. And I have one other food recommendation just around the block. There's a little place called Shawarma that has absolutely some of the best Mediterranean food I've ever had, and they're actually really good on the budget here.
Shawarma is definitely a popular thing in New York City and around the local area of where I'm at. So that's that's awesome that you guys have a place over there. That's interesting too.
The diversity of foods is massive. So where I live up at the top of the hill, probably like 6 or 7 train metro stops away. It is mostly Northern African, so you eat a lot of kebab and a lot of that type of food. But down around the Commons, there is a couple of Chinatown alleys that are absolutely insane. um, they have hot pot, noodles, dumplings, Vietnamese, Chinese, and super healthy, good to eat. I can't rave enough, and I probably already have, but the food's great.
It's actually really cool to have that. I mean, the interesting part with any major city in Paris is the same. It's very international. There's a ton of international cuisine and um, yeah.
I'll wrap the food section up really quick. Halfway between Commons and where I live right now and the co-living is a boulevard called Belleville. And there's also heavy Asian, but really strong Mediterranean and the area is known for having 5 continents worth of cuisine on one street. And when our side was here, I was walking around down there. I actually saw a fully stocked Mexican marketplace there, which was a real surprise because we'd had a conversation about how much of a Mexican community is here, and there is enough to sustain a fully stocked Mexican store with masa, all the salsas. I mean, you just like you're in Southern California or Mexico.
That's awesome. I like making homemade tacos as well with the mansa. So cool. But yeah, but just want to welcome some of the other people who came up to speak. Kansas and Gork and King Solomon. Man, welcome to the space. I have not seen you in one of my spaces in a while, so I'm glad to have you here, Solomon.
Oh my gosh, dude, I've been really busy. Nice to be up here, man. You guys always put on great spaces, Death. So, how's everything been? Pretty good.
Been well, man. Been well, and sitting down just with some potato ganache right now. Going to have a great conversation in somewhat of a little celebration mode for the XRP ledger surviving this 12-year span in this distributed ledger technology crazy space.
Have you ever found a in real life picture of Arthur Brito yet?
Oh, that's an interesting conversation to bring up. The thing would be is if we saw a picture today, would anyone believe it? With the advent of the possibilities of the extremes of the smart tooling sets for Photoshop availabilities in the form of pictures and even videos, it's I feel like at this point, no matter what would happen, it would be questionable.
Too much hype around him, right? I feel.
I agree.
Vet, I gotta say, the XRP Cafe guys were telling me that you like to steal photos of their live consensus participation and post them as if you were there dropping alpha.
Absolutely. I got a
That's
Every
ton
pretty.
of yeah, ton of comments, DMs. Like Mikkel, I think, was posting, "Hey, are you there?" Um, and to do it. But I was posting actually from both accounts. I was posting it from Cafe and then also from my account, different parts of
Yeah, but
the
I mean,
booth, and
your
they were really
posts were
amazing.
like, oh, the XRP Ledger booth looks amazing this year. Like, can't wait to hear Brad talk. Just like, where is Bet at?
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
had all the picture with all the cool dudes. Are you sure you didn't post one with Arthur yourself, King?
Yeah, yeah. No, I wish.
There might be one.
I think we're gonna release a David interview today. I don't know if I can get it out today. If not, it'll
Man,
be
you're a
tomorrow.
rock star. I was like, man, I just was so proud of you. That was so awesome. Just like watching your feed, all the stuff you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen one single post of David, I think, apart from one he posted and yours actually. Um,
I got
yeah.
like I think our interview is like 37 minutes long or something crazy, but we did 22 interviews in like 2.5 days. So my voice was, it's like back now, but it was totally shot. Because then you don't realize when you go to those events, you have to like pitch your voice louder too because it's so loud at the event.
Rock star, that's all I gotta say. Just total rock star. Just all the spaces everybody's been in, everybody pulling together, everybody doing their part, everybody sharing the stuff. It's all so cool.
I got to talk to I'm sure you've met him, Vet, but is it Marco or Marcos, the guy that runs some of the dev grants through
Yeah, plebs.
Triple X?
Except plebeian is on Twitter.
I think we're gonna try to push through like a grant for like educational stuff and try to really nail in on some of the spaces and articles and all that jazz. So hopefully we can get it through. I don't have time to do it this week, but I want to get all these interviews out first.
There are multiple. I mean, the last update. It seems the accelerator also got changed. The accelerator isn't anymore for further ahead projects. There's two tracks, I think. One is if you're just very early and you want to get started, I think, and like you have an idea, like you say, hey, um, I want to do more of this. Like, let's say more education regarding this, then they can help with that. And something else is like, and then there's of course the one for if you're further ahead with your project. But they changed a couple of things there, so it should address more people um, that I liked, and I was posting about it when they did that. But I think it went under. Yeah.
The first accelerator is called Launch, and the second one, I forgot the term for it, but it is basically when you have some customers using your application, you're making transactions on the ledger, and yeah, they both come with grants now. Originally, launch was 50,000, but I'd spoken with people today that had gotten a little bit more, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, but it does seem like they're really expanding that program. And people who got Wave 7 grants were fast tracked into the launch program as well. So I had spoken a couple days ago with a project called Propto that is a fractional real estate platform on the XRPL. And I spoke to them in one of the Tenity spaces. So for me personally, being a new builder, it is super interesting what's going on and gives me a lot of optimism.
So Solomon, can you give us some spoilers or maybe highlights of the David interview before it comes out? Any key questions that you had asked that you and maybe anything that you didn't get to ask in the conversation that you would have liked to?
Yeah, I mean, all the I think some people were asking me when he was going to flip the switch. Certainly couldn't ask that. But yeah, I mean, I we got into like RWA tokenization, obviously. I mean, really kind of just the feedback loop type stuff. If you look at the on-chain lending protocol and obviously the AMM going live and the way that identity ties into all this stuff and like verifiable credentials stuff and compliance and it seems like there's kind of a lot coming together at once. Got to know a little bit of the stablecoin initiative type stuff. I think got into some of the AI aspects, got into the EVM sidechain with PeerSys and EVM OS, and yeah, just a lot of different stuff. I had to pull the question list up because there was a lot there. And obviously, some of these interviews, like you can't like we shotgunned the one last year because just out of sheer luck. But some of these interviews, you got to get questions across the line, and everybody has to be comfortable even to have the opportunity to do the interview. So it's not like it's just like, hey, I'm just going to ask David anything that I want to ask him. It's really not how some of these interviews work. But I still think it was a really valuable interview and cool to get his mindset. I actually think he really enjoyed it because I think he gets asked a lot of kind of really boilerplate questions sometimes without people that think about how this stuff might tie together. So I think it's a good one.
Yeah, man, and you've been around for a long time. I mean, for you to get that interview only makes sense, and even more in the future, right? You're always respectful, and you present yourself really well, and that's something that people definitely pick up.
Well, I tried to get Brad, and trust me, I asked like I don't know, I asked like maybe five, six, seven, eight times, 8 times to get Brad for an interview. But yeah, David's awesome. He's cool to talk to. I noticed it because we interviewed him last year too, and I noticed he seemed a little bit more comfortable this year. So yeah, I think it was good.
It might be controversial and anything, but I personally like listening more to David. Maybe because he's a tech guy. I don't know, because I feel like he has something more to offer to me, I guess. Um, because I can care a bit less, I guess, about the market stuff or the business part, where I think, or the strategic thing, where for Ripple, where David speaks more about the XRP ledger. Yeah, depending on what you want to know more. I think if you want to know more about Ripple, then um, Brad can talk more about it, but XRP Ledger certainly, David. So cool that you got him.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, I don't know. I mean, I am kind of over time, I guess, kind of in the same boat where like you don't try to figure out what these people are building. How can you really try to put a pulse on, where the market's going to go? It's great to hear people talk about the overall, broader aspects of the market and what's going to, what the opportunity is and all this stuff. But, talking to David and people like that about how this stuff ties together, then you kind of start making your own assumptions about where this stuff's going to go. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. When is it gonna drop? Any?
either today or tomorrow. I mean, I have it live right now. It's unlisted on YouTube, but I'll push
Okay,
it out
okay.
here soon.
Nice. Yeah, send it. How
No,
long
I'm
is it?
gonna.
Like half an hour? Hour?
No. Well, I had an hour slotted out, but we ended up doing like 40 minutes.
Okay,
I also
nice.
got from the XRPL, obviously, Chris and Adam from Cafe,
Mm-hmm.
and what is it, First Ledger, which is really cool actually.
Yep.
That Telegram bot that it auto, like, once you've associated through your Sum or Salmon account, you can just kind of trade naturally in it. Like, I want to buy one, whatever, and right through Telegram, it fills the order, does all that stuff. I think that's really cool without having to go in and make sure that you do all the stuff that you would normally have to do. I think that's been like lacking on the XRPL for a while. So I think what you guys are building through First Ledger is really cool. And then the Zertmon guys, I got to interview them too, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's cool. Looking forward to it, honestly.
And interoperability being the key in the conversation, it sounded like, which cannot be overstated. Even, going back to 2014, the first thoughts of even after the XRP ledger was already created, this knowledge that possibly, and vet is on the opposing side of this, so I always love that, but the horizontal and the vertical scaling of using other chains to have this interoperability that enables this high throughput for whatever would need to occur for our species, of course, right? This not on a macro scale.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm a multi-chain guy. I'm not believing much in multi-chain within the XRPL ecosystem so much because it's like going around scalability, not so much other things. But yeah, I mean, I get what I mean, the thing is, interoperability is huge, and this is like the next big thing, like undoubtedly. Because David said it himself, right? Without interoperability, you're not gonna have mass adoption because you have like all these different chains, and they're not gonna go away, obviously. And if everyone constantly thinks about what kind of tokens do I need, what kind of wallet do I need, like all of these things, and how can I get my asset over there? And it's, yeah, it's a mess, but it's cool to see that, yeah, how these pieces come together. Like there's huge opportunity for that. We are early, basically.
Well, a lot
Truly.
of so like what's been interesting to watch is like, and I've got to hop in a second, but I think if you look at some of these networks that have been around for 3, 4, 5 years, um, a big push for these guys is to get outside of the echo chamber and to get outside of like the ecosystem, like, and start talking about multi-chain and talking about things that are going to maybe grow the pie as an industry, where you have like newer ecosystems that kind of are just trying to bootstrap out their own ecosystem, their own liquidity, all this stuff. When you look at like Ripple, or you look at like Hedera, or you look at I don't know, pick an ecosystem that's been around for a handful of years. I think that's why you're starting to see some of this stuff like DREC and like decentralized recovery for those open standards, which isn't natively built on Hedera or natively built on Algorand or natively built on Ripple, but these assigning developer advocacy and developer working groups to start building initiatives in decentralized open ways that are going to drive the whole industry forward. Like, that's, I think, pretty important. And yeah, at the end of the day, that type of shit only happens through through having the ability to network behind the scenes, like across chains. So like, I guess I'll just leave it at that. But I mean, I think it's cool to see these types of things coming to fruition.
it's a huge trust building proof of concept, right? It's a whole in the macro trust building between our species. If we all trusted each other, we could essentially have just one network that could do everything. The problem is we can't because of the forms of attack vectors that would occur in such a situation, most likely, or maybe in the 50 years in the future or something like that, we live in a utopia where we don't worry about those things. That would be cool, but today it's, yeah, I love the thought of this interoperability is you have your network, I have my network, we have a network that sits in between us, and we trust these setup of networks that can communicate, and this information to be immutable. It creates a vastly superior trust system from a macro point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I think most stuff in this space is about trust, right? Like you look out, and we've all certainly made mistakes trusting people in this space because people change when money comes into the situation. People tend to have a knack for changing. But I think it's like getting to the point with the technology where you are right. Like if you've got like a handful of years or even longer of proving out like a network, then it makes more sense to collaborate and maybe grow the industry a little bit more. But um, yeah, I don't know. I think that the direct shit's cool. Like one of the things that I think is like it's still a huge uh, red tape as far as onboarding like the masses into this space is just the user experience to actually onboard into this space. Like the wallet experience, how every single wallet that you use across every single network is totally different. You have 40 different passwords. You have, if you lose your key, because you can't change your password once you have your password, if you lose your key, you're totally fucked. Like you can't, all of your assets are gone. Now, if we think like the institutions and shit are gonna totally on board into, and flip some sort of an imaginary switch that doesn't exist. Um, with one password where if they lose the keys to it, they're totally screwed. It's not going to happen. Yeah, I don't know, but I think anything that actually does address like the root cause of like, why don't we have 99% of the world, in crypto yet? Which I think the onboarding aspects, the wallet recovery aspects, having it operate where you don't even know that it's operating in the background, I think is huge.
100%. And multi-signature. You brought up a good point on at the XRP ledger. One transaction, you can have an account with 30 up to 32 multi-signers on it. So it's, yeah, super important. Yeah.
Do you believe we will see more for both of you or anyone here and say, do you believe we're gonna see more self-custody or more of hybrid? Because I think it seems like we're seeing more a hybrid between custody and self-custody, and sometimes even full custody. Because like for you look at exchanges and what kind of product they are offering, and they have insurance, they have all of this stuff. It's like your brokerage basically, and nobody's self-custodying their stocks. So what do you think? Are we going to see more self-custody? Will this be less over time, more hybrid, or full custody?
This is something where I think Ethereum has also beat us to possibly a little bit quicker. I think the majority of people, it's a very small niche of people that will like the self custody and will always maybe like the self custody. The majority of people don't probably care. They just want a product that's going to work, and if the service that's being provided they like and they want to use it, they're going to use it, and they're probably not going to think twice about it. Just like Solomon said before, right? This underlying protocol being used, and the account abstraction being the thing that I was referring to for Ethereum. And I think with that ability from a distribution standpoint, the user doesn't really even need to worry about it. They don't even need to think about it. So I think it's really nice.
Gosh, I kind of have to bite my tongue here, but you guys are right now having conversations we have every day building, and I don't want to
Well,
give.
jump in. Give us your opinion and your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear
Well,
it.
I'll
Give
give you
others.
a high level opinion is that largely people, yes, they don't want to and maybe don't need to self custody. I think the answer to the big question right now are hybrid solutions, not just as far as custody, but as far as Web 2, Web 3. Um, I th I think that really in what we're trying to do with my specific application is target people who don't know about Web3, don't want to know, and don't need to know. I make an analogy that we all have cars, or not necessarily here in Paris, but I have a car at home. Most of us have a car. We don't know how many chips are in the car. We don't know what kind of spark plugs it takes. We know basics like the gas mileage and how fast it'll go and the engine displacement. We don't need to, as users, we don't need to know all of these details. And right now in the cycle and with the marketing of the space, it's best that the end user, if they are what I call, Main Street or suburban type user, they don't want to, they don't need to know, and there's still a lot of connotations even with the term blockchain, that are still negative, that need to be reversed before people really look into it. But what I view will happen long term is that people will not only become comfortable with it after about, somewhere in the 5 to 10 year cycle, people will become aware that they've been using distributed ledger technology, and there will be a marketing shift and they'll actually be proud of it. And then that's when a more rapid adoption where you don't have to keep things less disclosed, where you'll have them running. And I'll give you a great analogy that most people don't know is that Ethereum hashes transactions. I mean, not Ethereum, but DocuSign hashes transactions on an EVM for some of their signatures. And it's on their blog. They're not hiding it, but it's not something that they market outwardly. It's just a technology that functions.
Yeah, great example. They're just basically saying, "Hey, we use this for this particular task, but like it's not anything special. It's just this is what we need it for."
Well, it is special, but the user is not prepared to know everything, and there's a connotation still. So they kind of run under the radar, and I guess it's, somewhat of a need to know. But soon that will be sort of take a backseat to, I believe because the technologies are so good for some specific use cases that eventually the users will be the marketers, and that they'll be, you know, claiming what a great technology they've been using when nobody else has. There'll be a blockchain pride, I believe.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to hear other thoughts on this too. I mean, Solomon, if you want to input.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be similar to what we're going to see across a lot of different verticals, not just like custodianship. I think it's going to come down to like choice. I think the great thing about crypto is you have the choice. A lot of choices where you previously didn't have choices to do certain things. As far as like self custody, like full blown self custody, I mean, I would hope that we always have the option to full blown self custody our own assets. I mean, it's kind of the whole point of crypto. But do I think that's going to become? It's going to be interesting to watch because I think what I think right now, if you look at the way that we interoperate with like crypto, and everything should be self custody, even though you can have your stuff on a sex or whatever it is. Like it's kind of niche, right? Like crypto as a whole is kind of niche, and I feel like you're gonna see this kind of wave of additional custodianship options come out, where you're still going to have a mass majority of people, hopefully self custody in their own assets, but then the solutions are just going to become so seamless, including the self custody solutions are going to become so seamless that I feel like as actual mass adoption occurs, it's the self custody aspects, like full blown self custody of your own aspects, are just going to become niche again. I feel like it's gonna like ramp up, and then the tooling and everything else that's built out, and all these solutions, like what Vet mentioned with like insurance and everything else, and let alone the fact like Ledger was mentioning, this stuff's just going to be running in the background. You're not even going to know. I feel like once that kind of occurs, you're still going to have that niche group of people that are like the cypherpunk aspects that like still just want to totally self custody. But I don't think it's going to be the vast majority of people self custodying their assets. I mean, how many people hold? You can take probably a measurement right now how many people are in crypto that actually self custody versus just hold their stuff on a centralized exchange, and how many nightmare stories occur from that. You know.
Yeah, and I think too, even from my side of things, like it doesn't really matter if it's like a hybrid wallet or self custody. It just comes down to like why are the people even signing up for these wallets to do whatever like function afterwards, right? So I think like right now a lot of the people are like in the DeFi and just automated market makers, where a lot of the world isn't into that. They're more into like entertainment and stuff. So we just need, I think, more use cases to get people excited for even signing up in the first place and stop making it such a chore.
I agree as well with that aspect. But sorry, Solomon, go ahead.
No, I mean, and that's the whole thing is like if you look at crypto, you got to ask yourself why isn't everybody self custodying their assets? Because if you're buying crypto, you know, you're creating wallets, you're doing X, Y, and Z. I think that it's a knowledge gap, but I certainly where if you buy on a centralized exchange, people there's still probably a lot of people that think that hey, I actually hold these. Let alone the fact that the FTX debacle with how FTX was leveraging customer funds to do all sorts of shady shit. If people think that that's just occurring on FTX, they are totally wrong. I mean, look at the vast 90, I would say 95% of these centralized exchanges do that shit. FTX just happened to get caught doing it. But I think it comes down to a comfort level standpoint. A lot of people just aren't comfortable with custodying their own assets. So people in crypto not being comfortable, it's not like some magic thing's going to change where people outside of crypto that do come in are going to be comfortable custodying their own shit. So yeah.
Imagine, I think the cost or key management part is just with writing down all these words or keys and everything is a bit more tricky. Like if we can make self custody more easier, this is the way. Like imagine it would be like something like a fingerprint or something like this. Like you will not lose your fingerprint, like unless you lose your hand or something like that, or your fingers. But it's harder to mess up. This is what I'm saying. Like if we can make it very hard for people to mess up, because people are humans, then that would help. Because no matter what, you will always have people messing up things, and it's a hard sell, in my opinion, for now.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was you, Vet, or Death that mentioned account abstraction, what they're trying to work
Yeah.
on Ethereum right now. And this is not to shill an ecosystem because Genfinity has like a media relationship with them. But I would seriously look into just the technology aspects of what Fabian built with Luxo. Those guys have spent like 5 years trying to tackle like the user experience aspects with account abstraction and just the profile aspects and how everything ties together. Where like I saw him comment. For those that don't know who the Fabian Vogelsteller is, dude, like one of like the main kind of authors of ERC20 and
Yeah.
Web3.js and Mist Browser. So like Vitalik put a post out being like, yeah, we just got a couple more things to tweak for account abstraction, and we've got proposals up. And I saw Fabian comment underneath, and this is 100%, at least in my opinion. You see these examples throughout crypto where it's like price is up, technology must be good, price is down, technology must be shit. And I don't know. I would look into what those guys have built without talking anything about the token. I think it's really cool.
I've heard of it before, but I haven't looked too much into it, so I definitely want them. Is there anything that you could highlight in like in contrast to their methodology of doing that same kind of thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's essentially like your it's like kind of crazy where like your public key is your key. You create your account like pretty much solely through email, like social login, which isn't new. Like social login has been on Ethereum for a while, but it's more so just like think about your wallet experience as not being a wallet experience, but almost being like a physical representation of like your identity. So like all the stuff that can be built from that. And it's like I said, I mean, I would look into like their LSPs, like their standards proposals, like 6 and 7 and 8, and how that stuff ties together, and then kind of the root ones like 1 and 2. Um, yeah, I mean, I would just mess around with it a little bit. I've found it pretty interesting. So
Solomon, so what do you think? XRPL birthday, 12 years. How far did we come with this ecosystem? Like the positive and negative, if you would give us a rundown.
I think that there's, I hope that, like, if we look at 13 years or 14 years, not just 12 years, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that's coming into play now, that are, with some of the amendments or like the XLS amendments, like the on-chain lending protocol. And I saw another one came out today too, and the DID stuff, where I would hope that people start using the shit that's built, because I think there's going to be a lot. It's going to look a little bit different than it looks right now. I mean, I can remember a few years ago, the only thing to talk about was the shit Ripple was doing, like the only thing. And then we saw, I think a lot of this stuff got bootstrapped out with XLS 20, and NFTs on chain. And one of the kickers, I think, so, like, I don't know, I look back a couple years ago and I look at like the Hedera ecosystem, and I feel like if you were to take a snapshot 2 years ago at Hedera and the XRPL, they were like almost identical as far as some of the shit you could do. I feel like the difference is like what DeFi is kind of just starting to do on Hedera, which I feel like similar things will happen to the XRPL. Again, I just think it's going to come down to user choice. Like, my hope is that people actually start using the shit that's built. I think I don't know. I differ from some people, where some people are like, well, we don't have enough good projects on the XRPL. I think I totally disagree with that, because Solana doesn't have any good, how many fucking good projects are on Solana, and it hit like an $80 billion market cap from meme coins and profile pictures. It's about people actually using what's here. So yeah, I'm hoping more people build cool shit, but for the cool shit that.
I'm sorry about that. I accidentally dropped my phone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I would just say, like, there's already cool shit here on the XRPL. People need to start using it. I feel like there's going to be more cool shit built, and hopefully people use that too. Ironically enough, I think the biggest problem on the XRPL is a cultural thing, where everybody is expecting to get rich overnight. Where if people were just to use this in the ecosystem, and other people from other ecosystems see that it's being used, they would come on and use the shit as well, and the price of XRP would go up. So I don't know. It's kind of where my head goes.
And I think this is probably the hardest one to tackle, right? If anything technologically, we can, talk about it and find solutions, but for what you described, I think that is way harder, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. You have a lot of people with a ton of influence, which I think is great. I think the real question is, the people that have the most influence from the community standpoint, how do they? And look, I'm not against people having a business model in the space, but how do they maintain a business model without losing their core audience if they do shift to talk about the shit that's being built on the ledger instead of talking about what Ripple's doing? So I think it's tricky. I mean, because at the end of the day, that is most of the onboarding onto the XRPL right now, is like through watching YouTube videos and shit like that. So, like, how
Yeah.
do you maintain your core audience, make sure that you still have your revenue model, because everybody has the right to make money for themselves in the space. I'm not saying anything about that, but
Yeah.
without, but also transition it into like some of the shit that's built. Because if we're all depending on Ripple, I mean, Ripple's running a business, you know.
Hmm.
So Ripple's business model is to make sure that Ripple can continue running a business. So,
Correct.
like, they're not like fucking, trying to
It's not
sit
a
out and make
charity.
sure that billion, however many people that are holding XRP are going to make money. So
Yeah. See, Solomon, it's interesting because there was we had a space. I don't know when it was, but um, one of the I guess what you would call influencers or content creators or whatever, YouTubers, came up and on stage because we had the conversation, and the person said they tried to push more this content about the XRP ledger, but they saw like less viewers and less people participating, and then they reversed. Yeah, exactly what you said, basically.
that's the crux of the problem, right? How do you make sure that you can still maintain, if you're a content creator and you've built up a revenue model talking about X, Y, and Z? I think I think that it's hard work to highlight people that are building shit, but to try to still get views. That's the bottom line. It's just much harder work than reading tweets at the end of the day. So I mean,
Yeah.
and that's nothing against that model. That's the model that's gotten those guys to wherever they're at. But again, I would hope that they put in whoever puts in the work to like highlight some of the people that are building shit. And granted, you're right, 100%. That's what I said. I mean, views are going to go down. So how do you make sure views don't go down? I mean, look, I've watched YouTube videos where the first 4 minutes of a video is a fucking sponsorship ad. So I doubt views would go down that much if you just put 30 seconds or 45 seconds of something that somebody's built instead of a sponsor ad. So
Yeah.
I
Welcome,
got to
welcome.
hop, guys.
Well, thank you for coming
Yeah.
in.
Thanks for coming,
Before
Solomon.
before you go, King, wanted to just tell you, man, you come a long way, man. So I was glad to have you back in the space, but you definitely come a long way, brother.
And a long more time to go.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I hate he had to leave because my question was kind of for him. But I keep hearing this thing like, well, there's a lot of good projects on the XRP ledger. We just need to get influencers to start talking about it so people use them. But what are these projects that somebody's actually going to use, right? I think it's easy to say there's a lot of stuff, but I guess if we start to try to narrow it down, like what is the average person really going to do with any of these ledgers? I'm not going to even make it exclusive to XRP.
I mean, that is also maybe a hard truth that many of projects probably are not that good. It's just the nature of it, and because then they would have broken out and people would have started using them naturally. Like I think that with the saying, "If you build, they will come," there's a lot to it because when you have this, people start using it without promoting it additionally, then that is very hard evidence for a real good product, a real good use. And then, of course, you
That's
can, start promoting it later on.
that's why I said in a previous space, like people should start taking a log at least for like 3 days or maybe a week if you could, keep it up for a week. But take a log as you go throughout your daily activities, right? Normal activities, and then try to then notate, right? Like out of everything that you're actually doing, what within your daily activities could be improved with a blockchain experience, right? Like just track your everyday activities. Like what do I do within the course of 24 hours that a blockchain activity could plug in there? Like sometimes I think we think about it so complicated and trying to come up with these wonderful ideas that we don't make it simple enough to just say, let me just track what I do on a day-to-day basis, maybe have 100 other people do it, and then see out of everybody's list, like where could a blockchain improve everybody's lives? And those are the projects that need to be built, and they're just not being built because it doesn't seem like the prerequisite work is to do the research to figure out what needs to be built.
Yeah, and interesting too about that, Kostya. Those types of projects also have really no reason to voice themselves, say, to the community, and so they could be being built, and we wouldn't even know. Just like the recent XRPL Commons that is starting to become more popularly talked about, right? But they've been around for a while, and they're doing a lot of stuff.
That's a great point, Jeff. And I think that that's actually going on. And one good place that we could probably point to that is Brazil, right? Like Brazil's just noticing things that they can do to improve the lives of Brazilians. And then they're linking up with Pierce's and this little organization and this university, and they're just building it, right? And we don't necessarily know about it. But again, the work's being done. So, yeah, that's a great point, bro.
Yeah, I try to highlight that more because people like, Bice Goose and other people who, at Ripple put a ton of effort down there. Argentina and, all these, the whole South America place, and I think hopefully soon Africa as well, is like such a slam dunk, but it's just not, I guess, so much in the heads of people. And it certainly, is helpful to put some more light into it. I certainly try to do it every time I can when there's news. But it seems like to be very much, a great experience down there. Getting builders, regulation is on a different level. You have participants from institutions is on a different level. Like it's just more people are committed to, hey, let's come together, figure this out, and solve
But
problems essentially.
but 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 do you see a distinct difference though in the fact that Brazil's trying to solve problems for Brazilian people, right? And a lot of times when we like in these spaces and we're talking about what can we build, everyone thinks they have to build this global product that the whole world's going to use. And I think that's kind of where the mistakes are made sometimes. Like simplify it
Yeah,
a little bit to your local area or your state or wherever you can kind of like narrow in on the problem that's specific to you. Because if you're trying to build a global product, everybody's situation is going to be different. So how do you
true.
find an actual product market fit when you're dealing with billions of people whose lives, economies, regulations, and everything are all different? And I think this has been a big problem in this space. It needs to be more focused and not thinking I need to build something the whole globe is going to use.
I think that was a really great point as well. That that makes so much sense to me, and especially from a business perspective, the localization, bringing it to your local, surrounding area, it's things that you can actually affect, and then see that substance, and then grow from there. Which then you can, of course, tackle those other resistances as they come. Yeah, that was a great point.
Yeah, I mentioned this to Vet a long time ago, and I wasn't able to kind of really get it accomplished, and I haven't given up yet. But that was kind of my strategy. Like I've been talking to the Chamber of Commerce here, right in my city, and trying to get them to understand the technology and where it could benefit this city, right? And so initially, I was approaching them with trying to fix this problem that we have in cannabis because we're a weed state, right? Um, and again, didn't get as much traction as I like because a lot of the dispensary owners are just like they don't know anything about crypto, like so they're just like, they tune you out. I just tell you that off the top. But now I'm kind of thinking there's other approaches, right, that could potentially be used. So one of them that I was thinking about was we have the bad homeless problem, and I often get asked by people coming out of stores sometimes, or these people catch me in certain situations where I would like to give them some money, but I haven't carried cash in forever, right? And so it's like I have to tell them, man, there's nothing I can do. Like I can't give you money if I wanted to. If we had a wallet program where I could get these people a wallet and maybe even get people to sponsor some of these people that specifically have these wallets, I think that it'd be a toehold, right, to really getting this technology in the hands of people and getting adoption. Because if I get these homeless people wallets, right, what happens? Homeless people are not going to hold money long because they don't have money, right? So essentially, they're going to spend it within minutes of them actually getting the money, right? So essentially, what you're doing is you're taking dormant money that would be laying in the hands of like my pocket, not being spent. You're putting it in the hands of someone who's going to spend it immediately, and you're increasing the velocity of money to the local businesses, right? And then you're making them vie to actually facilitate accepting these payments because now some other business is going to get all of that activity if they don't integrate a wallet to then accept these payments as well. So it becomes this kind of backdoor sneaky way to start getting this into real people's lives in a real, in a real way.
Well, the
Hey,
velocity of
Cash.
money. Sorry, go ahead, Ledger.
I'm sorry, Cash. You know how I feel. We've had some brief discussions about this before about unbanked and the use case for DLT, and it's a very sound use case. I did some research on it, and I'll be at the Easy A hackathon, and it's DeFi, so my project doesn't fit. So I've gotten together with a few people, and we're actually making a version of what you're describing. And one thing we found is that we do need on-ramps. And speaking of the ledger and new technologies, I'm very fortunate to be coming to the ledger in this time when we have things like decentralized identifiers and verified credentials that can help with this in sort of tracking the insights that people do. And in my use case, I'll use verified credentials to create sort of a scoring system and a couple of ways that we can onboard um, the type of users that you mentioned who are mostly in marginalized societies is by creating ways, as you mentioned, of getting cash in their hands. So one thing that really works that is, loosely being explored is peer-to-peer lending and specifically microloans. But also the gig economy can be capitalized to create sort of like an on-ramp where, a user with crypto or even with Swift or another payment mechanism can provide payment to a wallet. When you have a wallet, what these people have often lacked is the ability to transfer wealth or accumulate wealth at a low cost, meaning they go to get a bank account, and if they have less than X amount, they get a $30 fee every month. So a cell phone combined with DLT um, provides what's called a leapfrog mechanism that you can circumvent the banking system, and by doing it appropriately, you're not banking, you're providing a host of services. Downstream, you can connect them with the DEX, the AMM. We have crypto insurance that's becoming available. And here in Paris, there's a builder who has 220,000 card readers that accept crypto. And I'm going to wrap it up with Brazil because Brazil is an outstanding use case where they do have the whole country is now adopting crypto to fiat transactions in stores, and you can buy goods and things like that. So, Kashta, I could talk a lot more about this, but I want to yield. But if you ever want to have a couple of, asymmetric conversations, drop me a line.
Yeah, man, feel free to DM me anytime. But let me just share one quick thing, and then I'll kind of turn the panel back over to other people. I won't take up all the time. But I know I heard a lot of conversation about this lending thing, right? And glad to hear that you're doing work with the lending and financial inclusion. That is awesome. But one of my thoughts about this lending, right, is kind of specific to my community, right, the African American community. And a lot of people in the African American community are kind of indicative of people that lack a lot of means in general, no matter what your color is, right? But it just affects my community a little harder right here in the United States. But what I found is like at the end of the day, it's kind of hard for us to go get a loan in a DeFi aspect, right? Because in DeFi, you have to have capital to get the loan, right? So it automatically puts us in a kind of position to where it's harder for us to get the loan, even in this DeFi model, because you don't have the capital to then even get the loan, right? And even in the traditional side, right? You're poor, your credit score is probably not that good, and you don't get access to capital there either. So it's a lot of underprivileged people who have been denied this access to capital, where a lot of other people are getting basically, particularly when the interest rates were down, fucking free money, right? At the end of the day. And it helped create this disparity in wealth that we see perpetuating, right? So, how I'm trying to affect change in this regard is number one, trying to educate the underprivileged that there is a mechanism to break this cycle, right? But we're going to need help in doing it. And so here's my kind of goal in getting some help to break this cycle. If we can get most merchants, because all of them have some kind of what do they call it, loyalty program right now, right? If we can tokenize these loyalty points into an actual form of value, and I understand that there may be difficulties there, but just saying if we can reach that, what we then accomplished is, again, back to the African American community. We spend over $1 trillion a year. We're the biggest, largest consumers by demographics in the United States, right? So imagine how that trillions of dollars of activity, right, once it becomes a tokenized form of value, then gives you an ability to start accruing wealth based on your spending. Now that you're accruing wealth based on your spending, you have something that you can then turn around and put into a DeFi protocol, right? So that's kind of my holistic form of coming around to getting these people educated and in a way that their spending can then translate to a form of value that can lead to accumulating wealth that you can then put into a DeFi protocol. I hope all that makes sense.
Right. I want to, if I may, I'm just going to wrap up real quick on this. For what we're specifically looking at is non-collateral, real small micro loans with some sort of education and gamification that'll allow them an easy means to pay back without hefty fees that sort of would incentivize them to want to complete the payment of these loans to get into higher tier micro loans. And like you said, this is a generational problem. It's a lack of there's a large lack of trust in systems, any system, even a system that may come along with the best of intentions. And some of that generational, we touched on it before. I don't know, and tell me before we drop off what city you're in, but a lot of these cities in the Northeast and out west have, in the US, have a history of redlining, which means that people in neighborhoods, I'm assuming that you're near, had to pay actually higher interest rates or were denied loans because of where they lived. And those lines were drawn on racial lines. So those are the exact problems we're, in a small way, looking to kind of help develop solutions for.
Thank you so much for your efforts. I just must say that.
One thing, Cash, to change topics because I think this is interesting, and I want to ask you about this because it was a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned was it the black Bitcoin billionaires? Yeah, black Bitcoin billionaires, and um, I found this very interesting, this movement, and also what you said with, you got to give a little to get a little, and do you want to kind of speak about it and what they did? Because I feel like this is really interesting from a perspective of how to onboard, how to get people into the ecosystem, and all of this. Yeah, do you mind touching on that?
No, absolutely. So yeah, that's run by Lamar Wilson. Who, if nobody knows who Lamar is, he's a long time Bitcoiner. He actually built the first Bitcoin wallet on the iOS platform. So yeah, he's been around a long time, and he started the Black Bitcoin Billionaires, right? Because he's again a big, Bitcoin maxi, right? Trying to grow the community. And one of the things that he has done, not just in this iteration of the BBB, but he's done it in other communities as well, is he's a really Christian guy. So he comes from this position of liking to give, right? And so what I've witnessed in multiple iterations of things that he's done is that giving, right, it allows him to get the mind share that everybody else has a very hard time capturing, right, at the end of the day. So it's one thing to try to tell somebody, oh, this technology can do this for you, or this technology is going to change the world in this way, and maybe you should invest in it. But it's another thing for someone to just give you the technology, right, so you can actually hold it, see it, witness it, right. And so it becomes the most effective way that I've ever seen of onboarding new users into this space. It was he did it in collaboration with Cash App because he worked with Jack over there at Cash App for quite a long time. And if you remember, Cash App did this very effectively. Like they were going around partnering with these celebrities and giving away crypto to anybody that kind of like would, hit these sites that the celebrities were pointing them to. And so, like, if we just really zoom out and step back, it is the giving, right, that has been a very effective tool at onboarding new users onto these platforms.
And this is an interesting perspective because it is counterintuitive to some folks would think. Like you would think, oh, if I give, then I'm not getting a little, I'm losing because you give it and then people will maybe sell it or something or immediately go away. I mean, yeah, maybe some will do it, but there seems to be a huge effect that what you described with if you give, you're gonna see also a lot coming back, and that is very much underestimated because it is some maybe counterintuitive, and this is why you mentioned also with, with the Christian aspect, which is it's true. Like I've seen it also in other ecosystems, and I was fascinated when you brought this up again with yeah, Black Bitcoin billionaires.
Yeah, a lot of people know I spent time in prison. I share another story with you, but I seen the same thing enacted there, right? When they wanted to try to help these prisoners change their lives, one of the most effective tools that I seen in my 10 years of being down there, they would bring in these Christian organizations, and these Christian people would just shower them with gifts, shower them with food, shower them with love. And guess who they ultimately ended up turning to, right? And not having this more kind of like pessimistic view of the world, right? They start seeing that, oh man, there's really people out there that really do care about me, right? They may be white, they may be rich, they may be poor, they may be women, they may be men, but they care. And that actually made a difference, man. I can tell you from actually witnesses. So again, like you said, it may seem counterintuitive, but I can assure you that giving is the best way of like gaining growth.
Karma is a very, very
Amazing.
heavy spoon. Sorry, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm with you, Desmond. It's like yeah, it's powerful. Like, thanks, Kesha, also for giving your personal rundown on this.
I'll share a
Yeah,
funny story real quick too. I'll share a funny story real quick. So for a long, he's been running this for quite some time, right? And for a little bit, he was getting a lot of pushback from Bitcoiners and other people, and they were like, "Why do you have to call it the Black Bitcoin Billionaires Club? Like, why does it have to be the Black Bitcoin Billionaires Club?" And one of his most famous responses all the time is, he's like, "I find it so funny that y'all always ask me why it has to be the Black Bitcoin Billionaires Club, well, none of us are actually billionaires, but y'all never object to that either."
That's funny.
that's actually really good. Yeah. I've seen NYC. You came up when we talked about the subject. Do you want to chime in on that? Did it pique your interest?
Hey Vic, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to kind of echo what Cash just said because I could go on my own tangents on similar subjects and finding ways to onboard for underprivileged communities. But one of the things that I've always thought was beneficial was not only giveaways but different forms of interaction, like education via games, education maybe via um a series or even a riddle. We like riddles in this community. What if you solved the riddle and you won an NFT, and that NFT gained you into like an educational platform or something? All of this can be done not just through a computer screen. It could be done through an application. It could be done through an event where you have a smart TV that's broadcasting a presentation that is kind of interacting with everybody, because a lot of people want to learn, a lot of people want to participate, but they don't know how to code. um they have so maybe they have carpal tunnel, or they get Tourette's, or they have these ailments that kind of hesitate them to learn something that's extremely new. So I feel like as community members, kind of what Castro was saying, look at your general surrounding, look at what's in your neighborhood, look what you can utilize on the blockchain, or what the blockchain can be injected into to kind of make your surrounding better. And it doesn't always have to be the conventional ways. You have to kind of step out of the box a little bit and kind of look at what makes you comfortable, what makes your neighborhood comfortable, and present this new ecosystem in that light.
Yeah, I know I'm talking a lot, but since you mentioned it, it reminds me of another recent idea that I had. I think the XRP, I mean the XRP community should consider, because again, what has been around for a very long time in different iterations, fucking decade after decade after decade, fucking game shows, bro. Like if you ever turn on your TV, like there's always a new game show being launched, right? And sometimes there's an old game show just coming back. I think it would be a great idea to launch a game show on X, right? And so X will be the platform where it'll be instead of TV, right? But the twist here is that you can gamify it, right? So let's say, for instance, we're going to capitalize off of the tribalism in crypto, right? So we start saying, okay, we'll take all of these communities and we're going to compete, right, in basically some type of game show answering questions, right? And so for your team to be a contestant, you have to stake a certain amount of value in order to win an actual position to compete, right? And like, I've given this just a little bit of thought, so I'm kind of still new to it. But I'm just saying there's a lot of other nuances that you can integrate these wallets, have a game show, right, where you just bring in millions of people who are interested in winning money and playing, right, that may not even be crypto per se, right? And I think that would be a great way to onboard a lot of people into this space.
Yeah, like just like a celebrity squares with like people from the community would be hilarious. That'd be so good.
Yeah, man, I think it'd be fun too, right?
Yeah, I
Because
think
a
like just
legend,
the blockchain and just like gaming in general is just going to bring a huge wave of like just the normies onto crypto and stuff. And until we give them something fun to play, like it's just not going to happen for them.
because think about it like this, right? If you're making them stake value, right, in order to get the position to compete, because all of this is on the blockchain, like whatever questions that they win, if they win a form of value, then they can actually distribute that to the stakers who actually got them into the position to even compete, right? So now you're expanding the amount of wallets that it even takes to have this whole thing go, right? So the participants have to have wallets, the stakers have to have wallets, like the people who expect